After graduating, the wealthy students of an elite private school decide to throw a lunar eclipse party despite the island's 6 p.m. leave policy. Near a beautiful tropical island, a small fishing boat floats on the gentle waves. Crumb stands at the bottom of the ocean, holding a javelin launcher. Suddenly, he heard a rumbling deep underground, forcing him to swim to the surface. Crumb then rode his motorbike to the private school to attend the graduation ceremony. Other students are enjoying their last day, taking pictures and celebrating with friends. When Crumb took something from his locker, Anan bumped into him. He apologized and told Crumb that if he visited the island, he would eat at restaurant where the islanders work. In a calm voice, Crumb tells her that he will study in Bangkok, which Anan considers to be a scholarship. Then the beautiful maid passed. Anan caught up with his girlfriend. Suddenly, Joey patted the islander's shoulder, comforting his best friend. Joey advises him not to bother Anan because after graduation everyone will be alone. He then invited Crumb to a party after the eclipse. He asked his father to pull the strings to lift the 6 p.m. curfew. However, the islander declined the invitation because he had work to do after school. However, Joey insists that he come after his shift because the party will go on until dawn. And Crumb reluctantly agrees. Later, while the party was in full swing, Old Drunk celebrated and danced under the night sky. Elsewhere, Crumb had just finished his shift and was having a good time with his stepfather in the car. As the two discussed the boy's impending departure for college, the topic changed when Crumb received a box containing his biological father's ancient dagger. The gift confused the teenager because he thought his stepfather had never met his biological father. His reaction tells his stepfather that Crumb has yet to check his voicemail. A message containing the truth about Crumb's biological parents. Suddenly the street lights started flashing and the moon in the sky turned red. When the students at the party noticed the moon, they began to point at it with excitement and fear while taking pictures. Meanwhile, Crumb got out of his car to look at the moon when he noticed the huge waves forming in the distance. The panicked stepfather called him back in the car and tried to start the engine. Unfortunately, the wave of destruction hit them before they could escape. Crumb groaned in pain as he looked over and saw his stepfather unconscious at the wheel, bleeding forehead. The boy tried to wake the unconscious man when water flooded their car. Suddenly, a boat hit the windshield, breaking the glass. Crumb screamed in fear as the water flooded into the car. He tried helplessly to break the cracked window to let them escape, but as the car filled with water, Crumb could only watch his stepfather die. His lungs are slowly running out of air and he is unconscious. 25 days later, Crumb survived the disaster. Debris swept away by the tsunami is scattered all over the beach. Later, Crumb talked to a classmate about their predicament. The student feared that he would not be rescued because he had not received word from the mainland for almost a month. He then asks Crumb how he survived the tsunami, but the people on the island don't remember. Elsewhere, a student, Arisa, scrolled through his classmates' cell phones, checking. Still had enough battery power to test the signal. She uses Nat's phone, but still no signal. Joey and Anan come and she tells them that they need to tell the others that the plan with the phone is useless. However, Anan asserts that the mainland may still be repairing the tsunami pulls. With a sigh, Joey agrees that Anan's plan is failing, and Arisa adds that the other never appreciate having their phones confiscated. Anan insists they agreed to his plan, and that giving up the phone would only reduce their chances of being rescued. Joey reminds him that if there were still people on land, they would have been rescued by. At the school clinic, May checks Jack's temperature and injuries. She noted his fever and infected leg wound. May worries about Jack's health, especially as they lack medicine and medical knowledge. Jack's boyfriend Crit was also concerned about his condition when May told Jack that he needed to stay in the clinic for observation. Jan came in carrying a tray of food for his sick brother. May then asks Joey for help, telling him Jack's leg seems infected and asking if he knows where to buy antibiotics. Joey mentions that Crumb may know because he is a resident of the island. Next, the trapped students gathered in the cafeteria to receive their unpalatable rations. Looking around, Anan gave a presentation about his team searching for a phone signal. However, no one seems to want to listen. His announcement is interrupted by two class clowns, Nat and Gun, who bring up an old mechanical device they found, thinking it might be a classic video game. Arisa examines the old device and realizes it is a vintage cassette player. Nat wondered if they could use it to listen to music, however, Ice pointed out that they wouldn't have needed to listen to music if Anan hadn't snatched their phones. People started gathering for Anan to return his phone, calling him arrogant. To appease the crowd, Joey entered and sympathized with the group of students, asking to be patient for another 5 days, and the others agreed. After that, Joey and Crumb went to the village chief's house to get possible supplies. Joey sees Crumb's dagger and praises the blade. At school, Arisha excitedly opens the music player, hoping to fix it. Suddenly, Nat and Gun burst in with an old tape they found. After Arisa insults their bad breath, Nat retorts that her nasty remarks are the reason. Makes everyone hate her. Although clearly hurt by that comment, Arisa pretends she doesn't care, as the two boys walk out. Sighing, Arisa recalled seeing a schoolgirl lying on the floor covered in blood, as she stood over the body with scissors in her hand. At the village chief's house, Crumb and Joey find medicine, including antibiotics. May wants to treat Jack's infection. While looking around, Joey excitedly called out to Crumb to see something outside the window. Crumb and Joey find a boat stuck on top of a cliff. Joey thinks the boat might be their last hope of reaching land, as their search for signal has failed. He decided to climb the rock face, despite the islanders' warnings. Halfway up, Joey slipped and fell several meters lower. Crumb tries to catch up with him, but it's too late. A few minutes later, Crumb brought his best friend to the clinic and laid him down on the bed. May lifted his shirt and panicked when he saw his bruised skin on his clearly broken rib. Having a concussion, she took out her stethoscope to examine her injured chest. Just as she feared, she could not hear Joey's left lung, indicating serious injury. Panicked, she tells Crumb that she doesn't know what to do. Crumb asks the others to leave the room so that May feels less pressured. Next, the woman took a medical book and quickly flipped through the pages to find any information related to rib injuries. She thinks Joey's lung has collapsed and she has to insert a needle into his lung cavity to release the air pressure. When the woman took a large syringe, she stood beside him. However, due to lack of knowledge and experience, Mai was unable to perform the procedure. She fell to the ground crying, trying to muster up her courage to save her friend. Suddenly, Joey holds May's hand and tells her everything is fine. Seconds later, Joey dies, leaving Crumb and May feeling guilty. In the observatory, Crumb confronts Anan about his decision to keep the others in the dark regarding his unsuccessful search for a phone signal. The islanders told Anan there was a boat they could use. However, Anan refused to accept his idea. Later that day, classmates gathered on the beach for Joey's funeral. As the body burns, Anan gives a speech on the boat he claims to have found, stealing Crumb's ideas. Speechless at his shamelessness, Crumb fell silent as he stared at Anan. That night, the students took their phones and scrolled through photos and videos of their family and loved ones in tears. Meanwhile, Crumb sits alone by the seashore and finally hears his stepfather's voicemail. However, his battery runs out just before he hears the important part of the message. Suddenly the ground shook and a loud bell rang through the air, causing Crumb to cringe in pain. And his eyes turned white. When Crumb opened his eyes, he found himself in the middle of a forest, where he saw a woman holding a child. As he followed the woman, vines wrapped around her ankles and throat, pulling her in and strangling her. Nam sees his body near the beach and tries to wake him up. Crumb opened his eyes gasping for breath. The special and spiritual woman asked what happened to her. Crumb says he is having a dream, so Nam asks him to describe it, but man refuses to explain. As the boy was about to leave, Nam called him over and gave him his dagger. Later, Nam went to school and saw his classmates declaring the most recent earthquake was. She explained that it was related to a phenomenon that humans could not understand. Others laughed at her, however, thinking her arguments were meaningless. After Nam left, Anan talked about escaping the island by ship. Ice then rudely interrupted him, taunting him, causing the crowd to laugh. Feeling oppressed, Anan recalls a time when he was a conductor. When Ainen tried his best, one of the violinists didn't listen, disrespecting his authority. After rehearsal, his father berated him for his lack of control over his orchestra, comparing his own skill with that of his son. Currently, Ice and Ing explore the rest of the island. Bang Bang shows off a secret corner with his girlfriend, wearing a beautiful dress. Sensing her boyfriend's distress about their plight, Ing distracts him by inviting him to be intimate and jump into the water. Ing ran his fingers over Ice's chest, before kissing her pacemaker. As lovers kiss, the temperature of the water rises until it begins to boil, scorching them. As they plunge out of the lagoon, they fled in panic, calling Ainen, who was busy organizing others at the beach. The couple showed their classmates the boiling lagoon, adding to the urgency of leaving the island. The first goal on the agenda is to get the boat off the cliff. The boys wondered if the small boat could carry all the children to the mainland. Crum tells them only 10 people can fit, making others reluctant to work to fix it, when they might not even be one of the passengers. To defuse the situation, Crum told them to pick the first 10, and suggested using the pulley to lower the boat, to which Ainen agreed. He ordered the others to bring a rope, 3 logs, and a pulley. The next day, everyone gathered all the materials and equipment needed for the mission. However, Ainen's lack of knowledge makes it impossible for him to guide others. Crum suggested making a tripod on top of the cliff and using it as a lever, then he started climbing the steep cliff with ropes. Ice joins him even though Ainen prevents him from performing the arduous task because of his weak heart. His comment annoyed Ice, who was even more determined to climb on the pulley. Ainen recalls his concert as bandleader, comparing his rude violinist to Ice, who arrogantly climbed the cliff. Suddenly, Ice accidentally dropped the pulley, hitting Crum on the back. Ainen recalls his failed leadership as a conductor, disappointing his father because of his weakness. Crum was then taken to the clinic, where May nursed his wounds by slitting and sucking blood. Sensing his confidence in his mediocre skills, May feels close to Crum as the two share their secret ambitions, their dream of becoming a photographer. Crum's underwater and May's dream of becoming a singer. Meanwhile, Arisa and Ing repair the old cassette player and power it with a bicycle generator. With enough power, they use an old tape found by Nat and Gun to test the device. As the music plays, a woman's voice sings ominously about the end of her life and utters the word Prakasuria. Curious, 2 women burst into Nat and Gun's room while the men were changing their clothes. Arisa apologized as she went through the shelves and asked where they had found the tape. The boys told her they had found it in Professor Lin's room. Then she finally found a book with a single-word poem in it and left with Ing. The women discovered that the poem was about a kingdom full of defects and about a great flood that wiped it out of existence. As she listened to Arisa rephrase the poem, Ing feared for herself to realize how strangely the poems reflected their reality. That morning, everyone managed to get the boat off the cliff and brought it ashore for repairs. Meanwhile, Arisa and Ing realize that the tape has been intentionally edited because lines are mixed with the original poem, prompting them to reflect on the tape owner's decision. On the shore, everyone discussed whether they would choose the first 10 to leave the island. May named Jack because he desperately needed medical attention, and everyone agreed. The discussion ended when dinner was served, much to Ainen's dismay. He remembers his mother asked him to play the piano for her before going to school, and he regrets not doing so. Ainen senses her mother's desire when she sees the abandoned piano on the beach. He played a classical song that caught the attention of his classmates. Midway through the performance, Nam asks Crum about his dream and advises him that if he dreams of again, he shouldn't resist and see where it takes him. When Ainen's performance ended, everyone clapped and Nat asked for a pop song that the pianist requested. When the music comes on, everyone sings along. This improves everyone's mood. Suddenly, a mysterious woman came out of the forest and collapsed to the ground. Crum ran to her side to see if she was okay.